I am really excited for you. We're going to have an unbelievable, valuable AESNation.com podcast. You've joined us at the right time. Why? This is a twofer. We're going to talk about some unbelievable, remarkable things that are being accomplished by this entrepreneur who's in my mastermind group, the one of them that I'm in for. So one of them I'm in with Joe Polish, who we partner with on AES, Joe Polish of the Genius Network Mastermind, and really hit it off with this individual and just was blown away with what he was accomplishing as an entrepreneur. But then I started listening to his advice and decided to take it. It has made a huge difference in my life. He's a health professional. Why is that important to us as entrepreneurs? We're charging so hard, inspiring people to go after our visions. We want to make it a dent in the universe, but we need the energy. We have to be fully engaged so that we can do that. And we want to have sustainability. So stay tuned and join me because you're going to be blown away.
No way. You want amazing, remarkable, exceptional breakthroughs. Dig deep. Think bold, drive hard, watch yourself soar beyond your dreams. AESNation.com.
Dr. Thaddeus Gala, thank you for joining us today, and thank you for making such a big difference in my life. The last place I thought about getting health advice was in an entrepreneurial mastermind made up of all these CEOs. We got over 200 in Joe Polish's group, and just a driving, how did you as a health professional, I want to, before we go into kind of the advice on the entrepreneurship and on the health side, I want to hear how you got to where you are, that you're hanging out with this group here.
The way I got to hanging out with this group was really quite simple. I've always been in the mindset of wanting to challenge myself. I'm a student of life, so I'm always looking for opportunities to learn new things, and this seemed like a natural extension in terms of becoming part of this group and furthering my my education and our message that we're working to get out.
And I saw that. I mean, that's where I love is that you're so passionate about making a difference in the world, and I was listening to you, with how you talk about the chronic disease and how you're doing it to help people reduce or eliminate their medical treatments so they can have a full life and they can live with vigor. And I don't really have any chronic diseases, but I was listening to it and I go, geez, I could use a little more energy, and reached out to you. And since I think it's 7 weeks now, something like that, I've lost about 26 pounds and the energy has really kicked up and feeling great. So I just wanted to share you with my fellow entrepreneurs. And also, really, you're building a great business. You're making a difference in an awful lot of people's life, and I want to share those entrepreneurial experiences as well. But help me with the background. I don't think you woke up one day and said, "Hey, I'm going to change the world in health," and so on. How did this all come about?
Well, the way this all came about, John, was when I was young, my mother had fibromyalgia so bad that the traditional medicine failed her, and the doctor said, you're going to be spending the rest of your life in a wheelchair. And I remember found a picture the other day of my dad and I in the kitchen when I was a kid with a crowbar, and I'm literally tearing out the kitchen with my dad to remodel it to get ready for a wheelchair. Fast forward, here we are 25 years later, and the change that she made through natural health care ultimately got her life back. And that's what prompted me to go into natural health care from such a young age is that transformation and me getting my mom back.
Yeah, and I want to say that I haven't met your mom in person, but I've met her over the phone many times, and she's one of your coaches, and then seen videos of her jogging along, looking great in her mid-60s, and just doing phenomenal and very passionate. And this is the reason why I want to bring this up. I coach top financial advisors, and I've had the opportunity to do a program with another group. We were in New York at the time, and it was 100 of the most successful financial advisors really in the world. One of the largest organizations, if not the largest at that time. And they were concerned with the downturn of 2008, 2009, how it was affected their top 100 people. And they had us come in to help really on client experience and dealing with all the issues of the volatility in the market. But at the same time, they brought in a group to take a look at them from a health perspective and give them some coaching. And I got to tell you, it was one of the best programs I've ever been involved in. The thing that was scary, though, is they did all the blood work and everything else, and in aggregate, they reported it to the group. And there were a lot of health issues that people weren't aware of. And the reason why I'm bringing this up, these are all entrepreneurs. I mean, they were all hard-driven individual guys and gals taking great care of their clients during a very stressful time, but they were letting their health go. They weren't paying attention to it. And I'm concerned. When I saw that, that was kind of a wake-up call that, this is something all of us have to do as entrepreneurs.
Oh, absolutely, John. I think you're absolutely right. And that's one of the biggest thing that I see. If I could, the one message that I would get across to people is that we all look at our key performance indicators for our business, balance sheets, end-of-day reports, payroll. It's enough to make your head spin, but we miss the biggest thing. And that one thing would be taking care of your best asset, and that really is your health. And we know now that if you take care of yourself, your best asset first, everything else will be that much easier to fall into place. And I say that not only from the clients we work with, but also myself as an entrepreneur, knowing how that affects myself and our business.
Yeah, and there's no shortage of studies. This is kind of, we know the research is out there. One of my favorite books, I'm forgetting the name of the author. It's called the Fat Smoker's Strategy. And he's a very famous consultant. For some reason, that title didn't resonate. And he sold millions of books, but that one wasn't a hot seller. But I thought, geez, with that title, he wrote it. I got to read it. And I read it, and it was his life's journey, that he had become one of the most successful consultants in the world, delivering great value to all these businesses and everything else. And while he was doing it, he got fat, and he was a smoker, and he didn't worry about things. And then he did. But it took that heart attack to do it. And fortunately, he survived, and he was able to lose the weight, gave up smoking, and had great health and so on. But what so many of us do, and Ted, I'd love your thoughts, is as entrepreneurs, we wait until there's a crisis.
Yeah, well, you're absolutely right. We do wait until there's a crisis, and as a result of that, we're often left behind the eight ball. And in business, it's really easy to see our key performance indicators and to look ahead and project and to do strategic planning and so forth. But one of the big things is that in health, the cause and effect is often quite delayed. It's not like a marketing piece where you run an ad and within the next couple days or the month what the response was. The choices that we're making today really manifest months, years, and sometimes even decades later. And as humans, we're much more kind of linear thinking from a biological standpoint, in that the cause and effect, if there's more than a couple days or a week in between, then we miss the boat. And we know that's the case for low energy, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, diabetes, heart disease, all of those chronic issues that we deal with as a nation. The cause and effect is so disproportionate to what we're experiencing, a day-to-day reaction, meaning you put your foot on the gas and the car goes. So that cause and effect is much more of a long-term approach. And we know that the people that make those changes earlier on and get a consistent game plan are going to have the best approach or best outcome long-term with their health, and ultimately not spending their health to try to build up their wealth, only then in retirement years to spend their wealth trying to reclaim their health. So really, if people can understand that concept, and we can talk about more about what are those key things that you can change to increase your odds of being healthy long-term, that are simple changes, that's going to get people to the finish line and much happier. I say finish line, not like it's a terminal issue, but to the finish line of a long quality life and happiness as a goal.
Well, and I want to go to a couple of things. I mean, that resonated when you shared that with me, that it's so easy as entrepreneurs. It's typical we're in our 50s before we're really having huge success and the wealth is built up. And if we've ignored our health that whole time, the positive thing about being an entrepreneur, we have the wealth to try to regain our health. The negative,
hopefully, if you do it right.
The negative is if we took care of it ahead of time, we would have had that much more energy all along the way, a much better life, and so on. And where
Right.
it really hit me, we have a mutual friend, Dan Sullivan, and Dan is a partner in AES, Accelerating Entrepreneur Success. Dan and I got together, and Joe Polish, when we were just starting on this, and we said, hey, let's bring a virtual mastermind to all successful entrepreneurs. There's plenty for the startup entrepreneurs, but for people who are more established and so on, let's share the insights and our mutual friends and mentors for us and individuals like yourself, Thad. But what Dan came to me, he goes, John, I want a commitment from you. I said, Dan, well, what's the commitment? This is tough negotiating. He goes, I'm 70. I'm planning to stay fully active for the next 25 years. I want to make sure you take care of your health and you commit to 25 years in sharing this. And I thought, I had never thought of it that way. And it's like all of a sudden when you start thinking that future, that you've got to stay active I'm 58, for the next 25 years, you better take care of yourself. And this is something, framing I want to bring to everyone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, absolutely. I think that framing is crucial because, again, we know, for instance, heart disease starts at the age of as young as 14, but you don't feel the plaque and building. And, we've all heard an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. But if you understand the key concept, and we know now, myself and many other researchers agree that the way that healthcare is trending, that if you follow mainstream, you're going to get mainstream results. And the people that are leading the charge on that bell curve of progression, I think of it like the early providers and the early adopters that recognized cigarettes weren't healthy for us. And right now there's that trend in the healthcare industry that recognizes that subclinical inflammation. So if again, the key point would be subclinical inflammation. And if you can understand that process, that'll be crucial in keeping up to speed with where healthcare is going. People that understand subclinical inflammation, which we can talk about more, will really give themselves the best chance of long-term quality and quantity of life, often in areas, and I know that you've experienced that, John, just from the little bit that we've been doing, and my hat goes off to you, you're doing pretty good, but they notice improvements in areas they didn't even notice that they had problems in. I had a couple just the other day, they were going through their coaching program, and they said, Dr. Gala, in our 22 years of marriage, this is the single best thing that we have ever done. And what they're referring to is, of course, is working with our team and making those health changes, because there was areas they're noticing improvement in that they didn't even know they had problems in, because it's like that frog in the pot analogy, that it comes on slowly and all of a sudden you wake up one day and you're wondering, where did this heart attack come from? Where did these diabetes come from? Alzheimer's, et cetera, all of those chronic inflammatory issues.
Well, let's talk about this, because we're entrepreneurs. We all want results. I mean, I know, my first recommendation, was there a magic pill I could take? I wouldn't use the trainer. I wouldn't use you guys. It'd just be done. And we found out
Right.
There's no magic pill. There actually takes a little bit of work, but not that much.
Well, I like one of the phrases that on Brendan Burchard's disclaimers, it says, we don't believe in any get-rich schemes. We believe in hard work.
Yeah.
And but of course, being smart and what are your biggest levers? So of the three things that I recommend to people to really make the biggest impact would be, of course, getting rid of inflammatory foods. What are those three things? Those three inflammatory foods would be grain products, dairy products, and sugar. There's many more, but those three, if someone is able to focus on those three keys and reduce or completely eliminate those foods, replace them with vegetables and lean, healthy meats, that right there, in about a week, people will start to notice some substantial improvements, whether in weight loss or energy or many other biomarkers for health.
Yeah, and I'm going to say, in our mastermind groups, there's a number of people that you've converted to that process. And I did hear from my fellow entrepreneurs, I did hear this a few times. I didn't jump on board right away. But once, I saw the vision of where I wanted to go and decided to do it. And, giving up sugar, grain, and, dairy, that's a big deal for many of us. But
Yeah.
it wasn't that hard. I was surprised the alternatives that were available, and I'm really enjoying, a lot more fresh food, not the processed stuff, the cooking. Time with my family, we're cooking together. It's just like it's a pretty big change. But once you got it in place, it's like, wow, you can make it
Right.
work. And certainly, and I entertain an awful lot. I travel a fair amount too. And you can work with restaurants and they'll work with you. And most of the time it comes out right.
Well, yes, and again, I commend you on making those changes. From my perspective, it's been a big difference, even in the last 5 and 10 years, from restaurants and people being able to accommodate. And we've all been told that vegetables are good for us, but still, there's millions of Americans out there that are suffering from chronic disease, and there's millions more that are going to be in the coming years. We know that right now, about 25% of every healthcare dollar goes to fight diabetes, which is 90 to 95% of diabetes is a lifestyle-induced disease. We know that 2/3 of America is either overweight or obese, and that's a lifestyle-induced issue or state. So of those two biggest issues that we're dealing with, the obesity epidemic and the diabetes epidemic, and then that relates to heart disease, cancer, and all those kind of subcategory comorbidities, those are all lifestyle driven. So we know what we need to do, but I find with a lot of our clients, when they come to me, they ask, is this going to work for me? And my response is, it will work for you, but you have to do the work. And most people aren't completely honest with themselves when they're making changes or when they're looking in the mirror. For instance, when people say, oh yeah, but Dr. Gala, I eat pretty healthy. And when I really go through the chemical breakdown of, let's say, a bowl of cereal, like Cheerios, right? We've all been told that Cheerios are healthy for us. So if you take a bowl of Cheerios, for instance, if you look at the inflammatory makeup in Cheerios and how many, for instance, salads you'd have to eat to balance that out, you'd have to eat about 20 salads to balance out the inflammation in one bowl of cereal. So when people come to me and say, yeah, but Dr. Gala, I eat pretty healthy, my first response is, well, if you were doing that legitimately, you wouldn't be sick and you wouldn't be on medications and you'd be healthy and you wouldn't be talking to me. And number two, that example I just used with the Cheerios illustrates how easy it is to get in this mind trap of thinking you're doing something right when in fact, when you look at the actual numbers, that just isn't the case. So I find a big disconnect between people saying, oh, well, I eat pretty healthy, and what that really is. So a key that people could do is legitimately write down what they eat during the day, and even starting with that and comparing it with how many vegetables they should be getting, lean meats, they'd be surprised at how many hidden sugars they're eating, how many grains, and how many dairy products they're consuming that are leading to this disease inflammatory process.
Oh, that's great. And these are things that, one of the things, almost everybody I'm inviting on for the show is somebody I've worked with and have confidence in and has made a difference in my life. And this is something that I wanted to share. But I'm going to switch now to go a little bit to the business side of it. And, when there's a huge group of people that need you. And, let me go play this segment. I want to understand where the big breakthrough happened, because it's so often as health professionals, we have our little office inside a big organization, or we're a sole practitioner and we're trying to make a difference, and between the regulatory things and just the demands on staying current,
Sure.
You can't think big. I know you're thinking big. What was a big breakthrough?
I think my biggest breakthrough happened when I was in 4th grade and I started my first partnership with a classmate, and we were selling corn nuts that we bought at the local store beforehand, and we were selling them during snack time at about a 50% markup. We buy them for $0.10 and sell them for 15 cents. That was my first breakthrough, but I didn't realize that I was an entrepreneur until later in life, and I got into practice and I realized that there were so many things that I wanted to do, and working as an associate or independent contractor in another clinic, that I really didn't have that ability to really express myself. Again, I consider myself a student of life, so I'm always looking for new and bigger and better things. And when I joined in, such as with the group with you, John, and met these other people, it was almost a perspective of coming home. I realized that all these ideas I had, that I wasn't crazy, and I wasn't alone with thinking big. Like Peter Diamandis talks about, what's your major transformative process, and what is your big life world-changing goal that helps you get up in the morning. So I think having, for me, it was recognizing that it was important to have that really big goal, something that was bigger than me, and something that we could aspire to. and then using the approach with Dan Sullivan, not getting stuck in the gap of, okay, so maybe we don't achieve that, but we're working towards that. And look at all the other benefits that come out as a result of achieving and working towards that top goal. So when I had that framework kind of hit me and I had that light bulb go off, I realized this is it. This is the process. Having fun in aspiring to that major goal and looking at the stair-step accomplishments along the way really is where the fun and where the magic happens.
No, I couldn't agree more. I mean, Peter Diamandis, you can go to aesnation.com, and he talks all about the abundance. He's got a great book, Abundance, and he's got a new book coming out, Bold. It'll be coming out shortly. And Peter makes us think big. I mean, everything he thinks is, how can I touch 1 billion of the 7 billion people? And then Dan Sullivan, I think this is really an important one. And again, you can go to asnation.com, and Dan did a podcast and we talked about this. And it's one of the things I like is, we all as entrepreneurs, and this is such an important one. We start here and we have goals here, and we end up here. And what we're frustrated is we didn't hit what our goal was. And boy, when we look back and look at the impact that we've had along the way, it's huge, and the opportunity we have going forward. And so we want you to have, you want to go out and make the difference. You want to strive really hard. You have a vision so you can inspire people, but don't get so frustrated that you drive yourself crazy that you're not hitting exactly. Take a look back, made that progress, and then commit to moving forward. We always want the future to be better than the past.
Absolutely. I agree with that 100%, John. And I would say that for, not only from the entrepreneur's perspective, but also from a health perspective. I want to be ultimate, healthy, super perfect, but don't beat yourself up over, boy, I didn't quite eat as well as I would like to in that restaurant. I had too many pieces of pizza, or whatever it is, whatever your health goals are. Feel good about the biggest thing that I would say would be feel good about your successes and not focus on your failures or your shortcomings. The more you can focus on your successes and create that momentum and that confidence boost, and the enthusiasm, whether it's health, personal life, entrepreneurial life, business, whatever it is, I really believe that that's going to be one of the biggest focuses. And that's what I do. And I believe that most successful people, when you talk with them, that's the same key that they're doing to keep their momentum and keep their confidence and their team on track and moving forward.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is, the classic, we're on a journey together, there isn't a destination. There's not a number.
Right.
There's a financial guy you need and a health score exactly, that day. But, there's a vision. I mean, mine, one of my biggest goals is I'm going to be in my best health that I've ever been at 60. Okay, which is really about, it's only 13, 14 months from now. Now, I don't think I'll be quite as good as when I was a Navy pilot and in great shape, running 9 miles every day and doing all kinds of things. But I want to be close. And, in today's world, I think you can be close to that. And the same with the entrepreneurial side.
Well, absolutely. And to touch on that, with being younger next year, I think about the story of my mom. She's 67 years old now. And there was a time where she was on full disability. And now she's running 5K races and winning them in her age group. I had one of my first aunts pass away recently, and she was in her low 60s. And my other aunts and uncles are facing surgeries and other chronic health issues that are very serious, without going into that. And I see my mom as here she is 67, and she's having to find younger and younger friends, and she's on 0 medications, and of course she's our lead health coach. And to me, that's the example of when you take care of yourself and you get down inflammation, eliminating or reducing grains, dairy, processed sugars, other foods like that, you really can set that stage, baby step by baby step, towards achieving a much healthier, richer future, both health-wise and using that same principle in your business.
No, that is great. And now, okay, so that's what you're doing now. Let's go to the next segment. What are you passionate about going forward? I mean, where are you taking all this?
The thing that I'm most passionate about, John, is changing the conversation in the healthcare world. And being that beacon or that lighthouse, if you will, for the millions of Americans out there that are looking and wanting answers, but they're getting it from the pharmaceutical ads and from their doctors that are trained by the pharmaceutical companies, and they're like a dog chasing its tail. So I'm passionate about changing the conversation in the healthcare world so people realize that they do have options and they don't have to be on medications. They don't have to have this slow decline of quality of life. They can live vibrant, full, healthy, long quality lives until the last year or two to its fullest potential. That's what I'm passionate about, because I got my mother back and I want to help as many other people get their mothers back, for, as an example.
No, that is great, and I think that's such a great mission, and there is a very small element of the medical profession doing it. I went and had a recent wellness check with my physician. I told him what I was doing with you and the progress I was making, and he put his arm around me and he said, "John, yeah, I'm really proud of it. You're doing really good," and it's a concierge service, so it's very high end, and he was showing me already the progress that I was making and why he was so proud, and he could see that it was going to happen. And this is, that preventive stuff versus the fat smoker strategy in health does not work. So we gotta deal with that. Okay, I'm gonna go back to entrepreneur for a second. And we have a segment here, the application of the day. What are you using that you want to share with your fellow entrepreneurs?
So the applications that I've found useful, and I believe most people are using them already, so I believe most people are familiar with it, but the app that I like for my phone when I'm on the go is Dropbox and Vimeo linked. They have some great features in there. I know, for instance, on my Android that I'm able to do a quick segment. If I'm, for instance, in a grocery store or I'm at an event, I can pull out my phone, I can do an interview, a quick Q&A or a quick content section, and I can upload it directly from my phone to my Dropbox. Automatically goes to a VA who either can edit it, publish it, etc., or it can go in there for later editing or cleanup. So the things that I really like for on the go is linking my phone to my Dropbox and Vimeo account, so you can just push out content, because I know one of the biggest hurdles that people face as entrepreneurs in reaching your audience and working with your clients and your customers is regular, valuable content. And a lot of people get hung up into how and when do I take the time to package it, to deliver it. And I found that this has helped streamline the process quite a bit in terms of going directly from production to dissemination very seamlessly. So I love the Dropbox and Vimeo apps just linked right to my Android.
Well, and I'm a Apple guy only on the iPhone. And it's because I'm going to have it so I could help my wife on hers too. And but I mean, I have the same thing. And let me just put it on the screen. Dropbox. If you're not using Dropbox or the other service, Box.com is more enterprise, but we have a pretty good size enterprise here, and I use Dropbox for our whole company. And I'll tell you, I love it. As soon as we're done with this podcast, I will drop the video into the recording into Dropbox. We also use Vimeo. It's just a great service as well. Extremely cost effective. So, I mean, if you're not, and really the best advice, I mean, those are two great tools, but the best advice, Tad, that you gave is regular communication, both to your future clients and to your current clients using video. This is just so powerful. The world has changed dramatically. You can have, it's not as good as one-on-one, but it's pretty darn good.
And if I could add one more thing to that, John, I would say you can grab a corded mic that you can if you have a little bag, or if you're going to a convention or you're traveling somewhere that you think you might be creating content, you carry one of these and you plug this right into your phone, and you're recording crystal clear quality even in a live loud event. You can plug it right into your phone. You can do your video and you get great audio. I mean, the cameras on the phones nowadays are so great that you can really produce some great quality audio and video stuff. Go send it right to Dropbox, to Vimeo, wherever you want to go, and have your VA edit it if you need to, edit it on your phone, and you're done and ready to go.
Yeah, and this is, we're going to be doing more segments on this as well, because this is something we're getting asked a lot of, and it's just, we want to, each of us is passionate, we want to get our message out. Well, one of the best ways to do it, it's extremely cost effective, is using video. How about, let's go to the next segment. And this is the book of the day. What are you recommending for some good reading?
The book of the day that I would recommend, I'm not sure how you can see that there, but it would be Younger Next Year. And
I'm
it's a
gonna put
great
it up
book.
on Amazon so they can get the whole thing. And it's younger next year. Live strong, fit, and sexy until you're 80 and beyond.
That's right. And I love it from the perspective of it helps create that mindset that you don't have to, your life quality doesn't have to go down with age. You can maintain a very high quality of life until the final year or two if you do the right things. Again, keeping your inflammation down, like we talked about earlier. There's some other tests specifically, but we can get into that. If you'd like, if your listeners would like to know that, there's about 3 tests that we can talk about as well. But the younger next year, that'd be a great book to start with. Yeah, I would say starting with that.
No, that's one of my favorite books. One a fellow Dan Sullivan, strategic coach, one of my ski buddies, gave me that, and I liked it so much he mailed it to my wife. I was a little worried what my wife would say, and she loved it and bought it for the whole family. So this is a book we can really recommend. And I'm not talking just our family, the whole family, anybody remotely related to us. But this is a great one. Let me go to the next segment. What would, but all the hard-learned lessons that you've had, that as an entrepreneur, what would be the number one insight you want to share with your fellow successful entrepreneurs?
The one insight that I would like to share with fellow entrepreneurs is that don't compare your doldrums to someone else's highlight reel. And what I mean by that is, you look on social media, Facebook or at conventions, and you see people in all their glory, and don't get hung up and think that that just happened or manifested. Any successful person has gone through many hardships and many stressful situations trying to figure it out. So I would say, don't compare your highlight reel to don't compare someone else's highlight reel to your doldrums, because we've all been there. We're all going through it. And, it's like that example. It's like, failure is only a failure if you don't get up and keep going.
No, I did an interview, another podcast yesterday, and a fellow that's built a phenomenal business. I don't want to share too much yet, but it's $200 million a year business, and he is really not well known, and he wasn't sure he wanted to do the podcast. And I said, I'd love to get your insights for the group, and he decided to do it. And what was key though is that so many people, because they haven't heard of him before, think of him as an overnight success. If you count 30 years as an overnight success and being at the right place at the right time, and the whole thing. And so we're all in the journey together. Tad, what are some of the resources let's play that segment, the resources that you have available? I'm thinking kind of the test and the website.
Sure. So the resources that I have available, John, I would say first off would be 3 lab tests that are crucial that I have all my patients go through and have done. And that would be a vitamin D test, HSCRP test, and then this newer one that I absolutely love, which is called, I'm not sure if you can see it there, you can pull it up, the Vital Omega-3 and 6 test. And what that measures is your amount of omega-3s in your blood, where you're at, and it really gives you that clear picture of where you're going. So again, HSCRP, vitamin D, and your Vital Omega test.
Let me pull up on the screen real quick. You can go to vitalchoice.com, and you can see it there as well.
Great, yeah. And I think if you want to go directly, I think you might be able to go to vitaltest.com.
Okay.
Vital Test, I think, will take you directly to that. You can buy that test. It's a home test kit. But you can work with your physician to get those tests done. And I recommend having them done twice a year. And the ranges that I recommend for HSCRP, you want to be under 1 or ideally less than 0.5. And you have to clarify between HSCRP and CRP. The test you want to have done is called HSCRP. For vitamin D, you want to get that tested about twice a year, typically at the end of summer and at the end of winter. So kind of, that fall transition, like September, October, and again in about April, May. So you can get your maximum, your minimum. So get your vitamin D tested twice a year, every year, to really make sure you're supplementing enough. And you want to make sure you stop taking any vitamin D before you get your vitamin D tested, so you get a true baseline. And for vitamin D, the ranges that you want to be, ideally, you want to be between about 60 to 100 people that live on the equator, and I don't mean, I mean people that live naturally on the equator, not people that go from their car to their business to their home again and never exposed to the sun, but people that are still living a native lifestyle are typically around 100. So vitamin D, you want to be about 60 to 100 on vitamin D. For the omega-6, omega-3 test, that's a little bit more complicated. When you get your results back, it'll talk, it's a whole gamut of information you can get in there to walk you through where you want to be in terms of how much omega-3 supplements you want to be taking. So that'll be a great influence for that. Or great recommendation for that.
That's all excellent. And the other thing I want to do is I'm going to pull up your website. That is at Dr. Thad Gala. And what are some of the resources that you have there? I see one jumping out at me right away on the ebook.
Sure. Well, the ebook really is 5 simple steps to help slow down, stop, and even reverse chronic disease so you can reduce or completely eliminate all medications. It goes through the exact teachings that we do in our live classes and in our coaching programs so people can systematically reduce their inflammation in a very clear fashion. So again, they can work towards reducing chronic long-term inflammation so they can work towards improving energy, decreasing chronic pain, allergies, autoimmune issues, reducing the risk for cancer, heart disease, etc., all of those things. So I'd say start with that free resource and download that, review it, start doing some of the recipes and the meals that are in there. I know we talked a lot about nutrition. There's a lot of other things that cause inflammation, but starting with that would be great. But we have my book on there too, The Secret to Defy Disease and Decay. You can check that out. We also have the cookbook to Defy Disease and Decay. We're in the final editing stages of that, so that should be done as soon as well. All of these are resources to help you reduce chronic low-grade inflammation.
This is excellent. Let me go over the next segment, which is our key takeaways. And these are so important because what we're all about is results. We want to accelerate that success and really make a difference. And so I'm looking at my notes here, and I see I was reminded throughout, and when I go back to that program of the 100 Financial Advisors, I did it with a company called HPI, Jim Lohr, who wrote a book called Corporate Athlete, Powerful Engagement, and a whole bunch of others, and just an extremely talented guy. And one of the things that resonates, Tad, that you were telling me that just brought that back is, that so many of us, particularly in our younger age, we might have been athletic, we might have been athletes, and just had great health, took it for granted. But the professional athletes, what they do is they spend 90% of their time training for just 10%, activities. And that might even be high. And then, then we go and, as corporate athletes, what do we do? As entrepreneurs, what do? Well, for the most part, we do 95% working and maybe on average 5% on the exercise, the health stuff that we've been talking about today. So, the number one thing is to recognize if you are not doing this now, get some help. I mean, I have a trainer, Tad and his team are helping me, coaching me as well on this. And I tell you, it makes so much difference having a coach. From a coaching organization, I know I'm biased, but I've just found that guidance along the way is just invaluable. Second is to recognize that you can turn back the clock. You don't have to accept the health that you are in now. You have the ability to make a decision and do it. And it's just so important if you're going to have the energy. It's not, we always talk about as entrepreneurs time management, but it's really energy management we have to deal with. And the third is KPIs, key performance indicators. As entrepreneurs, Tad brought this up right away. We're all used to metrics and measuring things and so on. Let's add a few for our health. It's just so important. Tad, I want to thank you again for sharing all these insights. I mean,
welcome. Thank you for having me.
It's been a pleasure. And, it's so important what we're talking about. Your clients are counting on you, your future clients, your employees, your stakeholders, and your family. Let's take care of ourselves in our own enlightened self-interest and for all the stakeholders. Let's go make a difference. Wish you the best of success.
Exceptional, remarkable breakthroughs. AESNation.com